Hey friends, happy Sunday and welcome back to another week of What's for Dinner. I hope you all had a great week. And if you are new here, hello and welcome. I am Taylor. I'm a stay-at-home wife and mom, and I share these What's for Dinner videos every Sunday to hopefully give you some new meal ideas and to also motivate you to cook more for your family. We had quite a few family favorite recipes this week, but we also tried some new things that were really good. So I can't wait to share those with y'all. But let's go ahead and get into this week's What's for Dinner. First up, on Friday night, we had some tuna casserole and peas. Usually I use about half of a bag of egg noodles to make this, but I had 2 bags of egg noodles that were like a third of the bag left. So I just combined those two and boiled them in some salted water. I usually only boil them for about 5 minutes. They're not quite cooked all the way through, and then they will finish cooking and get nice and soft in the oven. So I transfer those to a casserole dish once they are cooked, and then to them I add 1 can of cream of chicken, and then I fill that can halfway with milk and add that, and then I do 2 cans of drained tuna, some salt and pepper, and lots of cheddar cheese. I mix some of the cheddar cheese in with it, and then I put some of it on top, and then I bake this in the oven at 350 for about 30 minutes. Tuna casserole is a family favorite. If you've been here for a while, you know that. If you actually remember back on last week's grocery haul, I said I was going to be making tuna patties, but the family actually requested that I make tuna casserole instead. So I just used what I had on hand and made tuna casserole, and then we always have that with a can of peas on the side. Saturday night was another favorite. This is sausage, green beans, and potatoes, and I have shared this recipe many times on my channel. So this night I kind of took a break off from recording me actually making dinner, and I'm just showing you the finished product. I will link a video down below where I made this though. Recipe originally comes from Kat over at Southern Farm and Kitchen. And I do it different ways. Sometimes I use fresh potatoes like she does, or sometimes I use canned potatoes. Usually when I use canned, I do the slices, but this time I used the whole potatoes and just cut them in half, and we really liked it that way as well. I promise you there are some new dinners coming up in this video, but Sunday night we just had nachos, which is again a family favorite. I swear my family would eat nachos every week if I let them. Nachos and spaghetti are 2 things that they would eat every single week. As usual, I am using my Rico's nacho cheese that I usually keep in the freezer. I buy the big huge thing of it at Sam's Club and freeze it in quart-sized bags. And in case you were wondering, it thaws really fast. Usually I'll take it out in the morning or the night before and let it thaw in the fridge. This day I pulled out the meat, completely forgot that we need cheese for nachos as well, and didn't thaw it until 15 minutes before I was ready to make dinner. I was like, oh crap. I pulled it out, ran it under some water until I could squeeze it out of the bag, and then just put it in a pot on the stove on medium low with a lid on it, and it warmed up perfectly, no problem. So we've got all the usual stuff for nachos. We've got some refried beans, our ground beef, some jalapenos, sour cream, salsa, pico de gallo, some extra shredded cheese if anybody wants it. Usually it's just Andy, and some lettuce. And then we've got the scoop chips. Aldi has them. They're the dipper chips. So we use those. And then we all can just load up our nachos however we like. Monday night we did Mississippi chicken thighs. Everybody does Mississippi pot roast. I feel like if you haven't tried it, you definitely got to try it. But it's really good with chicken too, especially chicken thighs. So I like to do some boneless, skinless chicken thighs in the bottom of my crock pot, and then I take half of a package of au jus gravy mix and put that over the chicken, and then half a package of ranch dressing mix and put that over the chicken. And then we always like to do carrots and potatoes. So this is a 2.5 pound bag of baby potatoes that I cut in half, and a 2-pound bag of carrots that I peeled and cut into little bite-sized pieces. And then I get that in there and use the rest of the au jus and the ranch on top. And then I add in some pepperoncini peppers, a little bit of that juice, and then I take 1 stick of butter and cut it up and put it over the top of it, and then put the lid on this and let it cook on low for at least 8 hours. At the end of the 8 hours, your potatoes and your carrots are going to be like perfect, just cooked enough so that they're soft, but not like completely falling apart. That's why I always do the carrots and the potatoes on top instead of underneath the meat, because I feel like when it's underneath the meat, they always get like too soft and mushy, and this way they're like up towards the top of the liquid and they come out perfect every time. So if you're wondering why I do it that way, that's why. I don't care what any article online says about putting the meat on top of the vegetables. I like the vegetables on top of the meat, and that is why. When it's time for dinner, usually with the pot roast, I will pull all of the vegetables out and put them in a separate bowl, and then I can shred up my meat. But with the chicken, I just like to go in there and just kind of like break up the chicken into pieces and just leave it in there with the potatoes and vegetables. And then I will make some rice. I will leave a video linked down below of how I make my perfect white rice. It's super easy, and I make it in the Instant Pot. I don't prefer to eat it over rice, but the rest of my family does. I just eat a bunch of potatoes because I love potatoes. Tuesday, I made country style ribs in the Instant Pot. So my ribs were a little bit frozen still, like part of it wasn't and part of it was. So the recipe did have instructions to cook it in the Instant Pot from frozen. So in my Instant Pot, I am adding 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, 2 teaspoons of some salt, 1 teaspoon of pepper, a half a teaspoon each of garlic powder and onion powder, 1/4 of a teaspoon of smoked paprika, a little bit of cayenne pepper. Said this was optional, but we like spice, so I did it. 1 cup of water, 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, and 1.5 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, and a bunch of minced garlic. I always do more than the recipe calls for. It said 3 whole garlic cloves. I was using the pre-minced stuff, and I did I think like 1.5 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons, just a lot of it. And then I put my pork down in there, put the Instant Pot lid on this, made sure it was on sealing, and then for frozen, it said to cook it for 25 minutes and then do 10-minute natural pressure release. And I was kind of skeptical on the 25 minutes, thinking I needed to probably do maybe 5 minutes more, and I was right. After the 25 minutes of pressure cooking and then the 10-minute natural release, I opened this up, and they were still partly raw in the center of that hunk that was frozen together. So I just put them back in there and put the Instant Pot lid back on and pressure cooked it for an additional 3 minutes with a 5-minute natural release. And then they were perfect. They were cooked fully through, and then I just transferred those to a sheet pan because we're going to stick these under the broiler with some barbecue sauce on them. I am using this Kinder's one that I got, I think, at Big Lots. And I just put that on there and then stuck these under the broiler for about 10 minutes. To go with those country style ribs, I made some smashed potatoes. So I've got some little baby potatoes here that I am bringing to a boil in some salted water. And I boiled those for about 10 minutes until they were nice and tender and I could easily prick them with a fork. And then I've got another sheet pan here and I spritzed it with some olive oil cooking spray. And then I'm going to take those potatoes and lay them out on the pan. And then I'm taking a little glass bowl that's flat on the bottom and just smashing those potatoes just a little bit. You don't want them to fully smash and get all over the place, but you just want to break the skin so that they're a little bit flat. And then I'm going to season the outside of these with some garlic powder and onion salt and spritz them with a little bit more olive oil cooking spray, and then sprinkle them with some cheddar cheese. And then I stuck these in the oven on 475 for 15 minutes so that they could get nice and crispy. I had planned on doing a salad with this, but did not feel like cutting up lettuce and pulling everything out. So we just had some fresh veggies on the side. And these ribs were delicious. I will definitely make them that way again, but if they're frozen, I will definitely add a little bit more time. The smashed potatoes were delicious. The crispy cheddar cheese on them made them so good. And yeah, all of it was really good. Wednesday night brings me to probably my favorite meal of the week, these pork chop sandwiches. So I had bought these pork cube steaks at Ingles on markdown the other week, and I had no idea what I was going to do with them. But I was on Pinterest and saw pork chop sandwiches. Somebody was like slicing a pork tenderloin and like beating the meat themselves, but I had these already tenderized from the butcher, so I decided to make that same recipe with these instead. So I am seasoning them up on both sides with some salt, pepper, onion salt, garlic powder, and then I decided to do a little bit of Tony's Creole seasoning as well, and I did that on both sides. Then in one shallow dish, I've got half a cup of flour, and another one, I've got 2 eggs that I beat together with some salt and pepper. And then in a third one, I have 1 cup of panko. I'm going to take my pork chops and dip them in the flour, making sure they're coated really well, and shake off any of the excess flour. And then I'm going to dip them in the egg and then into the panko, and then put them on my air fryer rack. Then I sprayed these with a little bit of the olive oil cooking spray, and then these went in the air fryer on 400 degrees for 5 minutes. And then after 5 minutes, I went in and flipped them over and spritzed them with a little bit more olive oil cooking spray and cooked them for another 5 minutes. I put these on top of some brioche buns. The kids wanted some cheese on theirs. I think Elijah did American cheese and Lily did cheddar cheese. On mine, I just put a little bit of mayonnaise, and I think Andy put ketchup and cheddar cheese on his. We just had some tater tots on the side and some applesauce because the kids were like, what? Pork chops without applesauce? We gotta have applesauce. So while we didn't dip the pork chops in applesauce, we still had applesauce in the side. And these were so good. I will definitely be buying like pork cube steak again to make these sandwiches, or even tenderizing my own pork chops if I have to myself, because they were just that good. And I don't know what it was about them. They were just so tender, and they made a really great sandwich. Last up, Thursday night, we had some chicken burritos. So part of this recipe is kind of adapted from my Better Homes and Gardens cookbook. In that cookbook, there isn't a recipe for pepper lime chicken, but you're supposed to just like marinate the chicken in this pepper lime sauce and then like broil it in the oven. But I decided to take that chicken and put it in the Instant Pot. So I've got 3 chicken breasts here, and then to that I'm adding half a cup of water. Since I'm doing this in the Instant Pot, you need some liquid, and it didn't call for enough liquid. So I did half a cup of water and then a little bit of the Knorr chicken bouillon to make it a chicken broth. And then I added a third a cup of lime juice, a teaspoon of lime zest, a bunch of minced garlic. I think I did like 3 or 4 garlic cloves minced, some pepper and some salt, and some basil. And then I put the lid on this on the Instant Pot and cooked it on manual high pressure for 20 minutes and then let it do a natural release for about 5 minutes. And then I just went in and everything was cooked through, and I shredded it up with my little meat chopper thing. And then I use this to make burritos, which there's a chicken burrito recipe also in the Better Homes and Gardens cookbook. I didn't follow it exactly. It did say you could use this pepper lime chicken in that recipe, which is where I kind of got the idea. But I just took some burrito sized flour tortillas. I spread on a little bit of refried beans. I think it wanted you to use like the Fritos bean dip. I just had some refried beans, so I used that. And then I put on a little bit of salsa and then some of my chicken and then some cheese, and then rolled this up burrito style and just repeated that for all the burritos. And then I stuck this in the oven on 350 for a total of about 25 minutes, flipping them halfway through. And I did want to make sure I mention that I did grease my pan so that the burritos would not stick to the pan. These turned out great. The pepper lime chicken is really good, like just a little bit limey, but so delicious. You can see one of my burritos did not turn out very well. That's the one that didn't get sprayed very well, so it stuck to the pan a little bit and started to bust open. But all was fine. We just had some chips and salsa on the side of that, and it was great. But that is going to be it for this week's What's for Dinner. I hope that y'all enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you leave me a thumbs up and comment down below and let me know what meals you plan on trying from this week's video. And leave me a smiley face emoji down there as well, letting me know you made it all the way to the end. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great week, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye!